his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really.
Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Hey, Farva, what's the name of that restaurant you like with all the goofy shit on the walls and the mozzarella sticks?
You mean shenanigans?
Oh!
You're talking about shenanigans, right?
Put those away!
William, move your head. Look at the size of that boy's head. Shh. I'm not kidding, it's like an orange on a toothpick.
You're gonna give the boy a complex.
Well, that's a huge noggin. It's a virtual planetoid. Has its own weather system. Heat, move!
Yo, welcome to Remind Rewind. So glad to have all y'all back, and I'm so glad to be here for y'all. We are doing it, episode 6, all right? Now, I've tried to record this episode like multiple times. We had a couple weeks off. I went on vacation. I had a couple of bad weeks. My AC was out. So I'm finally getting to y'all with this episode that I feel like has been weighing on me and has been ready to go for some time. Well, we're doing it tonight. We're watching Hackers. It's the 6th episode of Remind Rewind. My name is Jordan Klein, and I will be your host tonight and always. And if this is your first time chilling with us, let me give you the scoop. On this podcast, I'm rewatching all my favorite movies, mostly 80s and 90s, some early 2000s, and maybe even some new ones that I either love that are new, that I might have missed and I'm watching for the first time, and including the ones I've seen before. You know, I'm just going to talk about what I remember from seeing them and, you know, some cool facts, my overall opinions. We don't get too deep into, you know, the film, you know, the different like themes and all that kind of stuff. We go into it a little bit, but it's mostly like the characters, cool things about the film, when it was released, that kind of jive. I also will be talking about collecting physical media. This includes the movies, music, anything that you can have and hold and keep forever and watch 1,000 times. I'll also be talking about reselling, movie news, physical media news, and from time to time I'll have a guest on to talk about movies, you know, that made them feel some kind of way. But thank you all so much for being here. Tonight we will be talking about the 90s cyberpunk classic Hackers. Quick note, this movie is streaming on Prime Video right now, so you can watch it for free if you have Amazon Prime. And if you do, or if you remember watching it back in the day, you can send me a message over at remindrewindpod@gmail.com. If you have any requests, questions, comments, feel free to shoot an email over there to me. And one last thing, if you haven't already, please give my podcast a like, follow, or rating. Subscribe, whatever you do, wherever you listen. It really helps support me on this new adventure. Okay, let's get started, guys. Tonight I'm going to start it off with, I do have the movie on in the background, so we will queue up different things that come along, and I've got it on just to kind of, you know, jog my memory and maybe lead the conversation in a certain way. But tonight, I want to start it off with the theatrical trailer. And this is the movie Hackers from 1995. All right, we're gonna listen to the trailer right here, guys. Here we go.
Hidden beneath the world we know is the world they inhabit.
Dave?
Yeah, Mom?
What are you doing?
I'm taking over a TV network.
Finish up, honey, and get to sleep.
They're hackers.
Hackers penetrate and ravage private and publicly owned computer systems.
Hack the planet!
Hack the planet!
It's not just something they do.
Sure this sweet machine's not going to waste?
Are you challenging me?
It's who they are.
I win, you wear a dress on our date.
And if I win, so do you.
They can crack any code inside any system.
Hello?
Mr. Gill, according to our records, you're dead.
I'm what?
But this time,
Come here, look at this.
It's some kind of virus.
Unless $5 million is transferred to the following account, I will capsize 5 oil tankers.
they just hacked the wrong guy.
Game's over.
Whoever wrote this needs somebody to take the fall.
He's about to commit the perfect computer crime.
You've created a virus that's gonna cause a worldwide disaster?
And they're about to take the blame.
A hacker planted the virus. But it's the perfect cover.
We're being framed.
Can we be allies? I don't play well with others.
Wow, we are fried.
Okay, let's nail it.
Now,
You're not good enough to beat me. Yeah, maybe I'm not. But we are.
they're the only ones who can prevent a catastrophe.
I know how to stop this guy. They'll trace you like that.
Are you nuts? Come at me!
Unlike any the world has ever seen.
Never send a boy to do a woman's job.
Hackers of the world unite.
Cops in the building.
I need more time. This is the end, my friend.
United Artists welcomes you to the new world. Hackers.
So cool, so cool. And I mean, it kind of gives you a good summary of what's going on. So this movie, for the longest time, I've always loved. It's always been one of my favorites. But it caught a lot of flack, and we'll kind of get into that because it's kind of cheesy. There's some major cheese moments, and we'll talk about that. I love the movie. That's why I'm talking about it. It's one of my favorites. It really just lives in this sort of like time capsule for me because I remember it coming out, and I remember watching it with my friends and showing it to my friends and just thinking it was super cool. So the movie Hackers was released on September 15th, 1995, which would have been 4 days before my 11th birthday. And I'm pretty sure I saw it probably the year after that. I don't know if I saw it in the theater. Okay, so it's an American crime thriller directed by Ian Softly, starring Johnny Lee Miller, Angelina Jolie, Jesse Bradford, Matthew Lillard, Lawrence Mason, Lorraine Bracco, and Fisher Stevens. So the premise of the movie is a young boy is arrested by the Secret Service for writing a computer virus and is banned from using a computer or a telephone until his 18th birthday. Years later, he and his newfound friends discover a plot to unleash a dangerous computer virus, and they must use their computer hacking skills to find proof of the virus while being pursued by the Secret Service and the evil computer genius behind the virus. So that's where it gets kind of a little convoluted. People are like, what? What the heck is going on? This is so weird. But, so this, one of the hackers hacks into a computer. He takes a part of a file and hides it, copies it on a floppy disk, hides it in his room, which is what he's doing right now, and thinks, nothing of it. So, what happens is the evil computer guy, Fisher Stevens, and his security guard that is literally sitting and watching like a computer mainframe, what's his name? Penn. Not Teller, but Penn, the magician guy. He finds them. He tracks the hacker that's hacking into his system, and he comes after him. And so he also gets the Secret Service involved because he's hacking this, they call it Ellingson Mineral Company. So it's basically like an oil company. So the file that the hacker copied contains part of a virus that the evil computer guy has created that is siphoning money from this Ellingson mineral. He's trying to put the blame on the hacker when really it's his virus that the hacker found. So what they have to do while they're trying to prove it's this guy that's doing it, the bad guy, Fisher Stevens, the Plague is his name, they're also being pursued by Secret Service. Now, there's lots of different things that come in. This is one thing that people get mad about, is these two characters right here.
Welcome to our show. Hack the planet. Hack the planet! And for those late night hacks.
Joe Cola, the soft drink of the elite hacker.
Who are these guys? I guess Razor and Blade.
Find a payphone in a remote
Razor and Blade. That's right, this is a payphone.
Don't ask. As you can see, this is just a simple micro cassette recorder. Hook it up to the phone and drop in $5 in quarters.
Record the tones that the coins make, then hang up and get your money back.
And never again pay for a service that would be dirt cheap.
If it weren't run by a bunch of profiteering gluttons.
Remember, hacking is more than just a crime. It's a survival trait.
Baby, I'm real.
So, Razor and Blade, they're kind of like, they're foreshadowing like this YouTube show kind of thing, or like a Twitch stream or something. But instead of having it on the internet, they're like literally hacking into a local television station and kind of like pirate radio, like broadcasting their, showing their broadcast, which is teaching these hackers different things. The thing that he talks about is recording the tones of putting the money in the phone and then playing that into a phone later, and it charges, or it activates the phone. It's able to work. So this is like a real thing. There was some toy that came out. I want to say it was like some Captain Crunch thing. It came with like Captain Crunch cereal. It was like a little toy phone or something that had a certain tone on it. And when you held that tone up to the phone and played it, it registered like you were putting money in the phone. So instead of just like, seeking out these little toys, they figured out what the tone is, and they were able to like reproduce it, or, the toy was pulled from the shelves, and now you can do it. You can just record it. It's just so funny that, they're hackers, but like their main objective is to like not pay for 25-cent or long distance phone calls or whatever. So it's just kind of silly. We'll get into more of, their MO, their main objective, their I guess they call it a manifesto, and what the hackers get into. So my impressions of the movie, my friends and I, we were totally stoked to see this movie. I don't remember seeing it in the theater because I would have been too young, because I'm pretty sure it's PG-13, and I would have been 11, so I would have had to have my parents take me, and I don't remember that happening. I also know that I definitely remember renting it, but I don't know if it was like it didn't have a lot of like popularity or whatever, but they didn't release a lot of copies of the movie. Like, you couldn't go into the store and buy it, right? There was rental copies, and then occasionally you would see one, but it was mostly like these rental copies that they were selling discounted. So I remember looking everywhere and wanting to buy this movie and not having to rent it 100 times, and it was just nowhere to be found. So here in North Texas, we have this old flea market / bazaar that's been in business for ages. It's called Trader's Village. It's in Grand Prairie. If you grew up in North Texas, your parents probably took you there at one time. I know I went lots of times. We got a dog from there because they have a little animal, rescue thing where you can get animals. It's basically a huge flea market with hundreds of vendors. It's set up outside, and there was always a couple of vendors that were selling VHS. This would have been mid-90s or late 90s. And I remember me and my dad digging. There was one guy who was always set up way in the back, and I remember looking through his tapes and finding an old rental copy of Hackers and freaking the fuck out, being so excited. I'm actually going to have a copy of it. I can show all my friends. And at that point, I was completely obsessed. So back to the movie. Okay, so one of my favorite scenes probably is going to be the title sequence of the movie. After Dade, Zero Cool / Crash Override, Johnny Lee Miller's character is convicted. It flashes forward 7 years later to him and his mom flying to New York. On the airplane, he's looking through the window, and there's a song playing that perfectly sets the mood for the whole movie, and basically just kind of gets you on this tip where, like, oh, we're going to be listening to a bunch of, like, really fucking cool electronic music during this movie. The song that's playing is by Orbital. It's an extremely popular electronic music song, and this is an extremely popular electronic music group from the 90s. The song is called Halcyon On and On. A favorite of many, many people. So after that, we see Dade and his mom in their new apartment with boxes still not unpacked. Dade is already setting up the computer and hacking a local TV station so he can watch The Outer Limits. Well, it turns out the TV station is another hacker's turf. This hacker's handle, or their name, is Acid Burn, which we will turn out to find is Angelina Jolie's character. So this scene establishes Dade's new handle, or his username, if you will, Crash Override, and that he won't be outing himself as Zero Cool, the kid who crashed 12,000 systems or whatever, until later, because he was federally prosecuted for the crime. So he doesn't want people to know that he's out here doing it yet. Now, the thing with the hackers is basically like, I can do this, I can hack into this. Can you hack into this? I can do it. So it's basically just like them showing off and wanting to like one up another. So it's weird that he like doesn't already like just tell them, because the whole point of hacking is just showing other hackers that you can hack stuff. So this is an important scene. They talk about the manifesto and what the hackers...
Of the bond. We exist without nationality, skin color,
the
or
hackers
religious
manifesto.
bias. You wage wars, murder, cheat, lie to us and try to make us believe it's for our own good, yet we're the criminals. Yes, I am a criminal. My crime is that of curiosity. I am a hacker, and this is my manifesto. Huh? Right? Manifesto? You may stop me, but you can't stop us all.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool?
Yeah, cool.
You think it's cool?
It's cool.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was cool. Okay, so that's the Hackers Manifesto. Like I was just said, they basically are just trying to one up another. But this manifesto that they mentioned in the movie was a real piece that somebody wrote for a published magazine that came out back in the 80s. It came out in 86, so this is a real thing written by the hacker whose handle is called the Mentor, and this is a real thing. So it says, "This is our world now, the world of the electron and the switch, the beauty and the bod. We make use of a service already existing without paying for what could be dirt cheap if it wasn't run by profiteering gluttons, and you call us criminals. We explore and you call us criminals. We seek after knowledge and you call us criminals. We exist without skin color, without nationality, without religious bias, and you call us criminals. You build atomic bombs, you wage wars, you murder, cheat, you lie to us, and you try to make us believe it's for our own good, yet we're the criminals." So this is foreshadowing like kind of what's going on now, and like this voice of, in here it's a hacker, but it's just someone who wants to know what's really going on. So a lot of the old hacking was just trying to get all the information that they possibly could without having to pay some sort of price. So one of the big hacks that happened in the real world was someone hacked into what's called JSTOR. And if you've ever gone to college, it's like this big library / database filled with all kinds of different multimedia that you can research with, use, and put in a paper that you're writing. It's legitimate. It's not just, hearsay or someone's word of mouth. These are like published articles, published things that that have that have meaning, that are real, that are tangible or whatever. So people and hackers thought like, we need to be able to access this stuff. So one of the first hackers like hacked the JSTOR and basically like downloaded like 75% of it and put it on a server where you didn't have to have college credentials or money to log into to see all this stuff. Okay. So that kind of goes with, what it's saying. So, okay, the rest of the manifesto. Remember, this is written on January 8th, 1986. This is real deal. This isn't like from the movie. They use it in the movie, but it's real. Yes, I am a criminal. My crime is that of curiosity. My crime is that of judging people by what they say and think, not by what they look like. My crime is that of outsmarting you, something that you will never forgive me for. I am a hacker, and this is my manifesto. You may stop this individual, but you can't stop us all. After all, we're all alike. So that's basically summed up and put into the movie. So that thing, the hacker manifesto, dang, I remember like legit typing it out, printing it out on a piece of paper, and hanging it up on my wall. I was super into it. So later in life, it appears, the Hacker Manifesto, in 2010 in the film The Social Network, in the Harvard room of Mark Zuckerberg. So, I mean, he was like, if he put it in the movie, I'm assuming it's something he at least knew about. I don't know if he had it hanging on his wall like I did, but super crazy to think, that this, huge techie guy, he also knew about like, these hackers and like how to take advantage of the system. So the hackers that we talk about, the hackers in the movie, they all have their own little handle. Zero Cool Crash Override is Johnny Lee Miller. Acid Burn, Angelina Jolie. Serial Killer, played by Matthew Lillard. Phantom Freak, the King of 9X, is not Jesse Bradford, but the other guy. Jesse Bradford, Joey, he doesn't have, he's trying, his thing is he's trying to find a handle. He needs a handle, but Joey is the one that hacks the Gibson and hacks into the garbage file and is being detained by the Secret Service, and as well as trying to expose the plague for his virus. They're also trying to bust Joey out because it's not, his fault. So, the people that I just mentioned in the movie, Matthew Lillard is absolutely incredible in this movie. It was one of his first movies. When I first wrote this, I had looked up a little bit in the movie and, found out some cool facts and stuff. But later I went on and watched some interviews and stuff. And Matthew Lillard, there's a huge community for this movie, for the Hackers movie. Like, people lose their shit over this. And I watched a cool interview with Matthew Lillard, who's still a super cool guy, and I guess has daughters and stuff who are teenagers now. He doesn't remember a whole lot from it because this was the 90s and he was living in New York and they were probably partying all the time or whatever. But he does have fond memories of the movie and how sweet Angelina Jolie was, and just how cool of an experience it was to be part of this sort of cultural phenomenon. A lot of the things so Angelina Jolie, now that I mentioned her, her and Johnny Lee Miller actually got married after this movie. I guess, I don't know the timeline exactly, but I'm guessing this is Johnny Lee Miller. Okay, so here's Lord Nikon. I forgot to mention him. He's another guy.
Made it.
He's DJing a party they're having at Acid Bird's
We
house.
have liftoff, 3 o'clock. Check it. Don't look right away. What's wrong with you? Look at her, man. Look at that. Lisa Blair, 26 East 7th Street, apartment 16, 555-4817.
How did you know that?
I got photographic memory. It's a curse. Lisa!
So that was Lord Nikon. He's got photographic memory. That's why they call him Lord Nikon. Spandex, it's a privilege, not a right. That's what he says right there. So Mark Anthony's also in this movie. Crazy, just random. They were like, oh, who should we get to be in this movie? I guess Mark Anthony. So so Mark Anthony plays one of the federal investigators. So one memory that Matthew Lillard did have of this movie is Mark Anthony inviting him And, you know, some of the cast while they were filming the movie, do like come to one of his shows that was happening in New York while they're filming. And Matthew Lillard is like, who's this Mark Anthony guy, whatever. And they show up and it's at like Madison Square Garden and there's like 15,000 people there, whatever. And he's like, holy shit, you know, like, wow, I didn't realize, like, you know, he's the real deal. So, so back to Angelina Jolie. She married Johnny Lee Miller. Now, they're obviously not married now. They're still friends. But I'm guessing this would have been like before Billy Bob Thornton and then obviously before, you know, Brad Pitt. But they do have like a little romantic thing that happens in the movie. So I guess some of that just spilled over into real life, which is kind of crazy. I mean, they're both, you know, two good-looking kids. And, you know, again, these are supposed to be high school kids, but at the time they would have been, you know, a little bit older than that. So what I mentioned, you know, in the beginning and, you know, a big thing that had to do with it being my favorite scene in the movie and loving the movie so much is going to be the soundtrack, which is, you know, a... pretty much a she's got a Metropolis poster in her bedroom from the film. That's kind of cool. So that's a thing that it's a reoccurring theme that we talk about here on Remind Rewind is the soundtrack. So this soundtrack combines like electronica, techno, house music. I mean, the soundtrack is totally insane. So there was 3 separate volumes of the soundtrack released over 3 years. The first volume is composed entirely of music featured in the film, with the exception of Carl Cox's Phoebus Apollo, while the second and third are a mix of music inspired by the film, as well as music actually in the film. The most featured song in the movie is Voodoo People by The Prodigy. You hear it quite a bit. It's like a acid house kind of sounding song with a repeating bass line, and it's got, some grit to it because it's The Prodigy. And also some of the other groups that are featured prominently are, like I said, Prodigy, Underworld, and Orbital. But listen to so this is the first volume of the soundtrack. Hackers, they call it Their Only Crime Was Curiosity, the original motion picture soundtrack. Listen to this. Kruder and Dorfmeister, Underworld, The Prodigy, Left Field, Carl Cox, Orbital, The Prodigy, Stereo MCs, Connected, the song that he's DJing, and the party scene that just happened. Let's see what else is on here. Okay, so that was the first one. The second one, another crazy one. The Prodigy, The Orb, BT, Moby, Underworld, Orbital. Just crazy. And then the third one, Moby, BT, Carl Cox, Orbital, Simon Boswell, who I guess did some music for it, but it's also like a pretty well-known electronic music producer. So I do want to mention the whole cyberpunk thing. Punk is a music movement. So this is kind of like something that a lot of people dog on is the costumes of this movie and how ridiculous they are. Now, at the time, I thought they were kind of cool, and when you go back and watch it now, they really are all over the place. Like Dade, Johnny Lee Miller's character, is wearing all these vests all the time, and Angelina Jolie dresses like a surfer or something, but they're living in like New York City. Matthew Lillard's character, serial killer, he wears a bunch of like different women's clothes and cool like crazy vintage t-shirts and animal print. And then on top of all that, they're like rollerblading in the movie. Like they go to a bar that literally has like rollerblading ramps and stuff in it. And a cool fact about the rollerblading is supposedly before they filmed the movie, they met up like a month before and were like practicing rollerblading together and like around the town, because Matthew Lillard was telling in the interview that like they would literally be shooting these shots like on a shut down New York street, and like all 6 of them are supposed to be like rollerblading together, and people are just like eating it like left and right. They're like, okay, I think we got the scene, let's go. Plus Matthew Lillard is like 6 foot tall, so like on rollerblades he was just had to be like towering. Like that would have been a crazy long fall, like coming down. One last thing I want to mention about the soundtrack or the music or whatever is like I feel like now if they would have like redone this movie, or if you know, the soundtrack were like newer, updated, it probably would include a lot of like vaporwave stuff, because I feel like the vaporwave vibe like would fit great with this movie. And if you don't know what vaporwave is, it's a kind of like electronic music where they take older kind of like smooth jazz or electronic music and slow it down and add a lot of like reverb and effects and things onto it. And it's just super cool, kind of chill music. If you've never heard it, I would definitely check it out, give it a try. Or if you never heard the soundtrack to this movie, I would definitely check that out as well. So next I'm going to talk about let's see, the computer mainframe that they talk about, the Gibson, which it does. There is quite a bit of the movie where you are inside of the Gibson, where they're saying hacking the Gibson. It shows you like the internal workings of this computer system, which now would just be like huge, massive supercomputers, you know, in a room with a bunch of fans blowing on them probably or whatever. But it lets you see into this digital space. And the computer that they talk about, the mainframe named the Gibson, it's actually an homage to the cyberpunk author William Gibson, who is the originator of the term cyberspace. And this was in his 1982 short story Burning Chrome, and later in the 1984 book Necromancer, or Neuromancer, sorry, not Necromancer, Neuromancer, that a lot of people have heard of. So this Gibson computer, the internal workings of cyberspace, these scenes also catch a lot of flack from people because they're kind of cheesy, right? It's showing you sort of floating around in this space with these tall building looking things with numbers and letters just generating and like being weird. Like people dog on it hardcore. But back in the 90s, like I don't remember it being that cheesy, you know? And like I said, this movie kind of lives in a time capsule for me, so it doesn't really like make me mad or laugh or whatever. It just kind of is what it is. Well, what's cool about this is Ian Softly, the director, didn't use CGI for any of the sequences in the cyberspace. They used he used more conventional methods of motion control, animation, models, and rotoscoping to create a real three-dimensional world, because back then computer graphics alone can sometimes lend to a more flat and sterile image. So he used different different techniques filming to get this kind of look into the computer, which a lot of people dog on, but is really cool because it wasn't something that people were doing. You know, back then people were not relying heavily, but leaning heavily into the whole CGI computer graphics thing. I mean, look at like, you know, Lawnmower Man and all those kind of movies that came out in the mid 90s where computer graphics were starting to take off, and it wasn't all just, you know, conventional methods of like building models and all that kind of thing, like how, you know, Star Wars or something would have been made. So another thing about the graphics or, you know, the special effects is when they're in the cyber cafe towards the beginning, they play a version of a game called Wipeout, which was released on the PlayStation 1. And the video game developer, what is this, Psygnosis? They created the CGI model for the Wipeout arcade game sequence specially for the movie. You know, it looks like he's playing it, but obviously it was something that they animated. But that game was out on PlayStation 1, and I was a big fan. I loved that game even before, it became more popular after this movie came out because people saw. It was sort of like a race where you're this like F-Zero looking spaceship like racing through, towards the end. So, another part of the movie that goes into it is, let me see, where am I at? They have a competition, Crash Override and Acid Burn, on who can basically make this guy who's trying to prosecute them's life a living hell, and they do all this crazy stuff to him. They put an ad in the paper for him. They get in touch, I guess, with the coroner's office somehow, and they make him look like he's dead or whatever. It's cool. It's a funny scene. There is one scene where they're like basically on top of the Empire State Building, and Matthew Lillard does remember doing that scene. Because they're on top of there could only be like 4 people up there at a time, and they're like straight up there like looking over everything, and he said it was pretty crazy. One of the other things I want to mention that I didn't like realize until later on, I won't give away what happens in the movie, but I would definitely, if I were you, check it out if you've never seen it before. And if you have seen it before, it's worth a watch again. Fisher Stevens' character, the Plague, is amazing. He does a great job. He's hilarious. Matthew Lillard is hilarious. Johnny Lee Miller, he plays a very timid kind of character. But I think that's what Ian Softly was looking for, because originally Ian Softly had brought in Matthew Lillard to read for Dade's part when they were casting for the movie. And he decided that, that wasn't going to work, and he casted Johnny Lee Miller, and then eventually gave another part to Matthew Lillard. But Matthew Lillard remembers like being there casting, and he remembers Angelina coming in and reading, and how he got to read as Dade and that was super cool. Another thing that I didn't realize until later on is there's a scene in the beginning when he gets to school. And I guess there's a joke that they have that they tell the new kids is there's a Olympic-sized swimming pool on the roof, right? So Dade goes up there, and obviously there's not an Olympic-sized swimming pool on the roof. And he's locked out on the roof with these other kids, and they realize, yeah, there's no thing. So they get rained on, right? So he comes back downstairs. Acid Burn, Angelina Jolie is laughing, and she's like, I guess you found the pool. So later, when they're doing their little, when Dade is trying to show them that he can hack, he hacks into the sprinkler system and has the sprinklers rain down like in the middle of one of their classes. So when Angelina Jolie comes out, she's like, what's this? And he's like, I guess the pool has a leak. So that's like a reoccurring theme. Well, then at the end of the movie, I'm not going to give away what happens, but it shows Acid Burn and Crash Override in a pool on top of a roof. And I didn't even realize later, like, that's what they were referring to. But the crazy part is there wasn't actually a pool on the roof. They, like, filmed in a pool somewhere, and then they used, like, computer graphics or whatever to, like, superimpose it on top of, like, some building. But it took me like years to realize, like, oh, that's what they're referring to, because I was always like, why the fuck are they in a pool at the end of the movie? Well, if you pay attention to that joke, that is what they're referring to. But all around, amazing movie, super funny, super cool, super nostalgic. I mean, it's nostalgic to the freaking max. Like I said, their costumes, the look inside the cyberspace. It's just a great movie to watch all around. It kind of takes you back to that time, and it shows you, what people thought the internet might be before it was really as prominent as it is today. So that's about it for that movie. And now we're going to go into a couple little things that I like to talk about on every episode. We're going to go and talk about the physical media stuff for a little while. So I have been watching tons of movies lately, and I hope you have too. I picked up a couple of things. Now, I am starting to look out for Blu-rays that I can get for the cheap because they look so good. I found a super cheap Blu-ray player at Goodwill, I want to say for like $8.99 a couple months ago. So I got that hooked up. It works great. It also has like streaming services and all this crazy stuff on it. It can play DVDs. It's super awesome. So I've been looking for like cheap Blu-rays to get my hands on of movies that I really like and that I want to see in this on the Blu-ray in the most, the best kind of picture I can get, because it's not a 4K player and I don't have a 4K. Maybe I have a 4K TV, but it's not a 4K player. So Blu-ray is the best picture I'm going to get at this point, 1080p, I guess, or whatever. Where like Hackers right now that we're watching is straight up like from the VHS, old school. I actually had another copy that the tracking was messed up on, and this is my second copy, but it has the better cover that I like. So a couple of Blu-rays that I did pick up. One I'll mention, Batman Begins, just a little spoiler. I am probably going to do that on a show very soon. Love Batman Begins, love Christopher Nolan. It wasn't the first movie I saw by him, but it was definitely one that just kept me interested in what he was doing. Christopher Nolan, if you've only seen Batman and Inception or some of his other newer movies, I would suggest going back and watching a couple of his older movies. His first one is called Following. It's black and white. It was shot on like no budget, basically. It's a great movie with a great plot and a great story. It's called Following. It's out there. It's on VHS and DVD. You can find it. It's not super crazy expensive. Black and white, though, super low budget, but definitely worth the watch. And then after that was Memento, which is amazing story, and I'll probably do it on the pod as well. Or maybe I should just do like a Christopher Nolan deep dive. But Memento is super great. It is a twisted, crazy mindfuck of a movie. It plays out in a really crazy way. I guess it kind of reminds me of, or the best way to describe it would to be like the way Pulp Fiction kind of tells the story from a couple different angles. Super interesting. You should definitely check it out. Just a great movie. I think it's Guy Pearce is the main guy, and he does an amazing job. Everyone in that movie is great. And it's super cool. It doesn't really, it's not really like dated or anything. So it's almost like it could be happening like anytime. So it's cool to go back and watch whenever, you're not going to feel like you're watching some old 90s, 80s, early 2000 movies. It kind of just, it goes, man. But it's really cool. I would definitely check out Memento if you've never seen it before. So, sorry about that. Okay. So we kind of just went off on a little tangent. Okay. Another couple of Blu-rays I got. I bought a cheap bundle on eBay because there was a couple movies I really wanted in it, but which I'll basically get for free once I resell the other things in it. The number one thing was this 15th anniversary of the movie Pi, which is Darren Aronofsky's first film. It's also in black and white if you've never seen it. Super crazy, super trippy thriller, crazy awesome soundtrack of a bunch of drum and bass and crazy electronic music. And I got that on Blu-ray. It's the 15th anniversary edition. It looks like it's got some commentary, deleted scenes, behind the scenes montage, trailer, music videos. That's going to be really cool. I got V for Vendetta, which I don't think I've ever seen, but I know that I should have. And I know pretty sure there's a graphic novel that it's based on. But I'm really excited to see this. I'm excited that I got it on Blu-ray. Natalie Portman, she's always awesome. But yeah, V for Vendetta. The creators of the Matrix trilogy. Cool. I've been wanting to see that one for a while. The other ones in this bundle were You're Next. Never heard of that. Looks like a horror movie. The Meg. Cool. Looks like a really good one. With Jason Statham. The Shallows with Blake Lively. Looks really cool. 2 kind of watery movies. Scary water movies. And then It Follows, which also looks like another really cool movie that I never really heard of, but I'm going to definitely check it out. And then it came with a DVD, Bringing Out the Dead, Nicolas Cage, Patricia Arquette. Love that movie. Haven't seen it in a while. I'll probably check that one out again. And then a video game, which I will resell and basically get these movies for free. So I did get another really cool movie, VHS that I bought. It's this movie called Screwed that I had never heard of that stars Norm Macdonald, Danny DeVito, and Dave Chappelle. And it is totally freaking hilarious. Fits in perfect with all those movies back then. It basically feels like a mix between Dirty Work and Half Baked. Like a perfect mix of those 2 movies where like each Norm Macdonald and Dave Chappelle are almost like fighting to like see who could be funnier, and then they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll just release these other movies that are basically us doing that thing separately. Really awesome. I don't know why I never heard of it or seen it before, but it really surprised me, and it was really good. I'm glad I got it, and I'm glad I watched it, and I'll definitely be watching again. And that movie's called Screwed. A lot of these movies, or all these movies that I've been watching, I've been putting them on my letterbox. So if you follow me, I will be. I'm also going to start a new Instagram for the Rewind. So I'll definitely be sharing my letterbox on there and other different cool physical media things that I come across. So I think that's pretty much it for stuff that I picked up. I did pick up a couple of movies that I've been wanting that I haven't seen in a long time, but I don't want to mention this because I don't want to spoil it yet, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to do some cool stuff on the pod with that. Oh yeah, I also got 2 more Blu-rays. I got a Fight Club and Office Space sealed Best Buy exclusive that have like this cool white cover. So I got those 2. I probably won't resell those. I'll probably watch those or keep them, and then I'll probably keep the Pie and V for Vendetta and sell all those other ones I mentioned. Yeah, I'm looking out for Blu-rays. If I could find one, for less than $5, I'm going to pick it up. Another thing I picked up that I started watching is I started rewatching 30 Rock, and oh my God, that show is so fucking amazing. It's so good. Like, there's a lot of things on there now that obviously like would not be kosher, but I mean, for what it was at that time, it was unbelievable. Tina Fey, Alec Baldwin, and Tracy Morgan are just something else, man. That cast, they knew what they were doing. And it was, it's meta, man. That's like meta before meta was popular. They're basically writing about and made a show about making Saturday Night Live and totally are just ripping on everything. But I guess Lorne Michaels was one of the producers, so he was cool with them doing it. But it's hilarious to think like, oh, yeah, let's just rip this apart and make it look like absolute garbage, but be hilarious. And Lorne Michaels he was cool with it, I guess. So another cool thing that I wanted to kind of mention, I don't have a lot of like substance, a lot of stuff to talk about for it yet, but a new segment that I want to try out is going to be called Lost Media Found Footage. And I guess this week I'll just kind of explain like a little bit of what it is and talk about some pieces that I've seen and heard about. But and then I'll kind of figure out what direction I want to go, because a lot of it goes into like a dark kind of weird scary thing, but there is a lot of cool pieces and things out there that aren't dark and scary. So the lost media found footage thing is lost media is different media, whether it's a song, a picture, a movie, a TV show that didn't get widely released or that was maybe only shown in a small area, and there isn't a lot of recordings of it available. You know, it wasn't released on DVD, it wasn't released on VHS, and the only remaining copies of the things are if the studio some reason saved it, which a lot of the times in the 90s they didn't, because that was the analog age of things. After everything was you know, back in the day, it was on the film that is highly flammable, and that's why they talk about it going up in flames, because different art houses and things filled with movies would just burn to the ground because of what the film was made of. It was highly flammable. Well, in what they call the analog age, the 80s and the 90s, a lot of these television stations and different companies that were doing things, they would record over the tape, because the tape that you use or the film would cost a lot of money for that. So if it was something that they didn't, you know, get a lot of use or play out of, like, they were recording over it and they were moving on to the next thing. So there were some of these things that just didn't make it, right? And that's a lot of like where the lost media goes. It also goes to dark things, weird things. It's you know, different websites that existed and these games and promotions and things that just were on the internet before there was somewhere for them to stay, you know, because having a network or having these things, they took up space, right? So they would get rid of them when the next thing came because they think, we don't need this. But a lot of people remember these things, and it's almost like a Mandela effect where, did this really exist? Was it there? And a lot of things are being found. So a lot of this stuff, the found footage, these lost media is now becoming found footage, where people are discovering old tapes that their parents might have recorded. You know, they're discovering where they have saved these things on some sort of hard drive or a floppy disk or whatever, and they're uploading them either to the Internet Archive, which is a really cool website if you've never checked it out before. It's sort of like a place for all these things to live that people want to save or you know, want to go back and watch or reference to. And then there's also the Lost Media Wiki, which is really cool. And it's basically just like, it's sort of like the Internet Archive, where it's sort of like Wikipedia, where it's a list of all these different movies, TV shows, internet websites, songs, albums, whatever, that were maybe lost, that are still lost, or that are maybe have been found. So there's a lot of cool things that have been found. 2024, I mean, just look it up. There's a bunch of really fun stuff out there. One of the things that kind of caught my attention that wanted to get me onto it is this old television show called Joy Junction. And you can look it up. One of the puppeteers and the main guys in the show ended up being like a huge like pedo, and had gotten like big trouble, but he was just on this show with these kids, and it disappeared. And when it was found, you know, it came out like, oh yeah, this guy is like really bad. So that kind of got me like turned on to, you know, what's going on with the lost media thing. And I'll definitely be keeping a tab on that and picking out some cool stuff that has been found or some cool stuff that has been lost. Some of my favorites that I'd like to find that only a couple of pieces of it remain are a really cool show that showed on Comedy Central. I guess this would have been in the early 2000s, called Viva Variety. And this would have been after... so the characters on this were three of the main characters from the television show Reno 911. Thomas Lennon, what's her name? Kenny, and gosh, now I can't remember the other guy's name. And then another guy, Ben. I don't remember his last name, but they were on the television show The State, which showed on MTV. They tried this Viva Variety thing for a while. It was really cool. It was a sketch comedy show, But the reason it didn't survive is they had bands play on it, and they were really cool bands, like underground bands, Henry Rollins and shit like that. But they couldn't get the licensing for the music, so they weren't able to put this show out on DVD or anything because they weren't able to get the licensing, because a lot of it showed the bands playing were intermittently throughout the episode, and then sometimes they would talk to the band or whatever. So I guess they weren't able to get that cleared, and it was never happened. There are some clips of the episodes that have survived that are on the Internet Archive. So so the Viva Variety people now, I said they're on Reno 911. A deep dive on them, Thomas Lennon and Ben, they went on to write The Night at the Museum, like all three of the movies. I didn't know that. I just checked them out from my local library on Blu-ray. So I'll be watching those. I'll probably mention it on the next episode. It's kind of cool where, you're looking at different like things like the lost media, and then it takes you into this whole other, you go down that rabbit hole and you find these things that you never realized. Like I never realized that he wrote those movies. I'm sure they're freaking hilarious. They have Ben Stiller and, these hilarious dudes wrote it. So I'm going to watch those. I'll probably talk about them. And then one more thing that I forgot to mention earlier with the found footage is also a cinematic movement where it's films that are depicting maybe footage that was found, like a video camera or a videotape. A perfect example of this would be like the Blair Witch movie. So that is part of the found footage. That is, another definition of the word. But what I'm kind of going for is, the lost media and then real found things, not like fictional found things. But it's really cool to think that, this is something that happens and exists, and then they took it and kind of like added a whole another level to it or whatever, and that made a whole new genre of horror movies that eventually made into another genre called analog horror, and it just goes on and on. So, I'm going to be looking for lost media, and I'm going to be hopefully finding some footage for you guys, and I will be sharing that on my shows with you guys. So that covers that. The physical media, we talked about reselling a little bit, but I don't have a whole lot on the reselling. The summer months are terrible for reselling. Basically just drops off. So for the past couple of weeks when I haven't been able to record or do anything, I haven't really sold that much either. A couple of DVDs here and there, a couple of VHS. Nothing crazy. Worked on some spool swaps a little bit. And then I'm kind of just getting my stuff together and getting ready for when the school year starts. My daughter will be starting pre-K, and my son will be starting second grade. And I will be substituting this whole year. So once that gets going, I want to have all my stuff organized so I can just be ready to go. I need to list some more stuff, and if I list, I usually do pretty good, but I just haven't had the time or energy. Like I mentioned, our AC was broken. It's working right now, but it's like rigged up, literally, like ghetto rigged, and that set me back. We went on vacation, and like I said, I'll be real with y'all, like I had a couple like bad mental health weeks, and I'm lucky that I have a very supportive wife and family and some really good friends that I was able to, just talk to and be like, yo, I need help kind of like working through this. So talk to a couple homies, and it's good. It's all good. It's just a summer bummer kind of thing, I guess. I mentioned to you guys, I'm staying home and watching my kids. It was rough. We did get into a rhythm. It's better. But, overall, it's just been sorry about that. Overall, it's just been a pretty hard summer, but it's been a good summer because I've gotten back into the movies, really trying to lean heavy into this podcast. So I'm so glad that you guys tuned in and you were here with me. I will be here every Friday with a new episode for you guys from now on. I'll have on some special guests soon, and you can count on me to be here ready to talk about some good old nostalgia and movies and music with you guys every Friday. So let me just recap real quick. Yeah, I mean, that's about it. I want to thank you guys again. What I'll recap about is please follow me on wherever you listen to your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, give me a like on YouTube. You know, like I said, I'm gonna try to get Remind Rewind Instagram going. If you have tried to reach out to me on any of the socials, I took a break. I've been off social media for about 2 weeks now, which has been really great. It was good. It kind of let me restart. So, going forward, I think I'm going to, hopefully tomorrow you'll see this episode and you'll see, this weekend a Instagram for Remind Rewind pop up, and that'll be your place where you can find all things movie and physical media related and things that relate to the podcast. And I'll be, teasing episodes, and it'll be a place where we can just talk about stuff, get the conversation started. So thanks again very much for listening to this episode 6 of Remind Rewind. My name is Jordan Klein, and like I said, I will always be your host, and I will be here every Friday. And please tune in. Thank you very much. This has been Jordan Klein and another episode of Remind Rewind. We will see you guys, or you will hear me next week. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And don't forget to email me at remindrewindpod@gmail.com, and we'll talk very soon. Thanks a bunch, guys. Bye.